and the cold silence of deep space, where ancient empires dictate the fate of worlds. One newly arrived species was about to learn that freedom has a price. But what the galaxy didn't expect was that humanity would refuse to pay it. Dr. Maya Rivera pressed her hand against the transparent viewport as the diplomatic vessel New Horizon approached the megastructure known as a Nexus. The space habitat stretched across hundreds of kilometers, a gleaming testament to civilizations far older than humanity's brief ventures beyond Earth. Towers of crystalline metal spiraled into the void. Docking platforms extended like the petals of some cosmic flower, cradling vessels of impossible designs. Ships that seemed grown rather than built, others that appear to be living organisms encased in energy fields. First time seeing it never gets old. Commander Jackson Torres stood beside her, his ceremonial uniform pressed to perfection. As her chief security officer, he'd been through the intelligence briefings. But no amount of data could prepare someone for this. "It's magnificent," Maya whispered, "and terrifying. Those usually go together." Jackson's jaw tightened. "Remember the protocols. Smile, bow when appropriate, and whatever they offer, let them speak first." "I know, Jackson." Maya straightened her diplomatic sash, the deep crimson fabric bearing Earth's united symbol. 28 days of travel from home. 28 days studying everything humanity knew about the Stellar Dominion, which wasn't much. The human ships that had made accidental contact 3 years ago had returned with warnings and wonders in equal measure. "They have technology beyond imagination," the report said, "but they demand a price for everything." Now, Earth's official delegation was about to learn exactly what that price would be. The airlock cycled open with a hiss that sounded like a whisper in a tomb. The air that flowed and carried scents Maya couldn't identify, something like rain on metal, mixed with flowers that had never grown on Earth. She stepped through, her team of 16 specialists following in careful formation. Scientists, translators, cultural advisors, and Jackson's 5-person security detail. Their ceremonial weapons both decorative and functional. The reception hall was a cathedral of alien architecture. The ceiling vanished into darkness above, while the floor beneath seemed to be translucent crystal, revealing starlight from below. Hundreds of beings filled the space, some walking on legs, others floating, still others moving in ways that defied Maya's understanding of physics. There were entities that resembled trees with consciousness, their bark-like skin etched with glowing symbols. Creatures composed of swirling gases contained in shimmering force fields. Beings with too many eyes, or no eyes at all, perceiving through senses humanity couldn't imagine. And approaching through the crowd came the delegation Maya had studied obsessively during the journey. Supreme Mediator Vexthal stood over 4 meters tall, his body covered in midnight blue scales that reflected the light in rainbow patterns. His eyes were tripupilled, shifting through colors as he focused on the humans. Robes of liquid silver flowed around him, seeming to move with a life of their own. Ambassador Rivera of Earth. His voice emerged from a translation device hovering near his head, the words perfectly synchronized with the movements of his jaw. "You honor us with your presence, the first of your kind to stand in these ancient halls." Maya executed the bow she practiced 100 times. "Supreme Mediator Vexthal, on behalf of Earth and all humanity, we accept your invitation with gratitude and hope for friendship." Hope. Vexthal's lipless mouth curved in what might have been a smile, an admirable quality in a young species. "Come, the assembly awaits your introduction." They walked through corridors that seemed to shift and reshape themselves. The walls displayed scenes from worlds Maya had no names for. Cities built on clouds, oceans that burned with bioluminescent fire, landscapes of fractured crystal under skies of perpetual aurora. Each image was a reminder. Humanity was new to this. So terribly, terrifyingly new. The assembly chamber made the reception hall seem intimate. It was a sphere, vast beyond comprehension, with seating arranged in concentric rings that rose in all directions. Tens of thousands of delegates occupied those seats, representing species from across the explored galaxy. At the center floated a platform, and as Maya's team was lifted toward it by some invisible force, she felt the weight of countless eyes upon her, eyes of every conceivable shape and color. Some looked at the humans with curiosity, others with barely concealed disdain. Vexthal took his position at the central podium, his form magnified by holographic projections, so that everyone could see him clearly. Members of the assembly, his voice resonated through the chamber. Today we welcome the humans of the planet Earth, the newest species to achieve threshold velocity and discover our great community. As tradition demands, we gather to extend to them protection and prosperity of the stellar dominion. A polite rustle of approval moved through the assembled delegates. Maya noticed it lacked enthusiasm. This was routine, nothing more. Humans, Vexthal continued, you have entered a galaxy that has known order and advancement for 900 standard cycles. The stellar dominion maintains stability across 12,000 star systems. We safeguard trade, arbitrate conflicts, and ensure all species may flourish. This harmony exists through collective contribution and shared responsibility. Here it comes, Maya thought, her stomach tightening. As a new member, Earth will be required to contribute to the common welfare. This is not punishment. It is privilege. You will receive technologies that would require your species centuries to develop independently. You will access markets across thousands of worlds. You will be shielded by the might of the Dominion's armada. A holographic display materialized above the platform. Numbers scrolled past in multiple languages, with human standard appearing alongside the alien scripts. Maya's breath caught as she read the terms. 45% of all rare earth elements delivered annually. Complete transfer of all quantum computing and artificial intelligence systems, including unrestricted data access. 125,000 human military personnel for Dominion service, minimum term. 12 years, with mandatory rotation indefinitely. Jackson made a sound beside her, barely audible, but she heard it. The rest of her team stood frozen, processing the magnitude of what was being demanded. These terms are standard, Vexthal said, his tone suggesting he was discussing weather patterns. Other species have contributed more. You should consider this favorable. Maya forced her voice to remain steady. Supreme Mediator, these requirements represent a substantial portion of Earth's resources and population. Might we have time to consult with our government? A ripple moved through the chamber. It might have been amusement. Of course. Vexthal gestured magnanimously. The Dominion is not unreasonable. You have 48 Earth hours to discuss with your leaders. However, Ambassador Rivera, understand that these terms are calculated and final. They are not subject to negotiation. And if we require more time? Maya asked carefully. Time will not change mathematics, Vexthal replied. But if you must delay beyond 48 hours, understand that uncertainty is troublesome. The Dominion prefers clarity. Jackson stepped forward before Maya could stop him. What happens if Earth declines these terms? The entire chamber went silent. Vexthal's tri-pupiled eyes fixed on Jackson with an intensity that could freeze stars. Decline? An interesting word choice, Commander. Species who choose isolation from the Dominion find themselves alone. No access to interstellar commerce. No access to jump gate networks. No protection from raiders or hostile entities. Some have selected this path. Most reconsidered within a generation when they witnessed what they were missing. He leaned forward slightly. And some required corrective intervention when they became threats to regional stability. I trust humanity possesses greater wisdom. The threat was crystal clear, wrapped in diplomatic language. Submit or face consequences. Maya bowed again. The Dominion's generosity in allowing us time is appreciated. With your permission, we will return to our ship immediately to begin consultations with Earth. Granted. Vexthal waved a scaled hand dismissively. Return here in 48 hours with your answer. I anticipate welcoming Earth as a full Dominion member. The platform descended, and Maya led her team back through the impossible corridors. No one spoke until they were safely aboard the New Horizon, and the airlock had sealed with definitive hiss. 45% of our rare Earths. Dr. Sarah Kim, their lead economist, looked pale. That would cripple our technology sector for decades. We need those elements for everything. Fusion reactors, quantum processors, medical equipment. And 125,000 soldiers. Jackson's voice was tight with controlled fury. To fight in their wars for 12 years minimum. That's not membership. That's colonization dressed in formal language. Maya slumped into her command chair as the New Horizon pulled away from the Nexus, heading toward their support vessel, the UESS Pathfinder, waiting at the system's edge. That's exactly what it is, she said quietly. I saw in their faces. This is a negotiation. It's a script they performed thousands of times. Show up, dictate terms, watch the primitives accept because they have no choice. So, what do we do? Dr. Kim asked. We can't agree to this. But can we refuse? Lieutenant Chun, their intelligence officer, pulled up data on her tablet. I've been analyzing what we know about Dominion military operations. They haven't fought a peer-level conflict in over 800 years, but their fleet numbers in the hundreds of thousands. Their technology is generations ahead of ours. Maya activated the quantum communication system, setting up the encrypted channel to Earth. The message would take 3 days to reach home at FTL speeds and another 3 for a response. But they needed to present every angle before Earth's leadership made this decision. Jackson, she said, I need a full tactical analysis. If this goes badly, if Earth refuses and they send their fleet, what would that confrontation actually look like? Jackson's expression turned grim. You want the honest assessment? I want the truth. Then give me 6 hours. The emergency council chamber in Geneva was packed beyond capacity. Maya watched via quantum link as representatives from every major nation on Earth argued about humanity's response. We cannot risk confrontation with a civilization that spans thousands of worlds, Ambassador Chinwei argued, his voice carrying the weight of China's position. The logical decision is acceptance. We work within their system, improve our position gradually over time. Improve our position? The American Secretary of Defense, Marcus Webb, shot back. With 45% of our rare Earths gone annually, with our best AI handed over to them, by the time we improve our position, we'll be so dependent on their technology that independence becomes impossible. This is colonialism wearing a diplomatic mask. It's survival wearing a diplomatic mask. Ambassador Chinwei countered. We've been spacefaring for barely 60 years. They've had FTL for millennia. This isn't a fight we can win. The Russian Minister of Defense, Katerina Volkov, leaned forward. Perhaps not a conventional fight, but history shows us that smaller powers have resisted the larger ones successfully. Asymmetric warfare. Making occupation cost more than domination is worth. We have options. We're discussing aliens with technology we barely comprehend. The British Prime Minister interjected. Not armies we can ambush in forests. Admiral Sarah Martinez, head of Earth's United Space Command, stood, then explained something to me. If they're so powerful, why negotiate at all? Why not simply take what they want? The room fell silent. The Admiral raises a critical point, said UN Secretary General Amaro Okonkwo. Ambassador Rivera, you were there. What's your assessment? Maya had been waiting for this question. Supreme Mediator Vexthal made it clear that refusal is rare. Most species either accept willingly or capitulate after demonstrations of dominion power. But there was something in how he presented the terms. It was routine, scripted. I don't believe they expect us to refuse. And I'm not certain they're prepared for what happens if we do. Not prepared. Ambassador Chinwei shook his head. They control 12,000 systems. They've maintained this empire for 900 years. Admiral Martinez pulled up a tactical display. Because peace makes armies soft, Ambassador. We've analyzed every scrap of intelligence on Dominion military operations over the past century. They haven't fought a real war in living memory. Their last major conflict was 800 years ago. What they call military operations are policing actions, overwhelming force against pirates or isolated colonies that can't fight back. She highlighted several incidents on the timeline. Look at these response times. Look at these tactics. They're predictable because they've never had to adapt. They rely entirely on technological superiority and sheer numbers. They've never faced an enemy that fights back effectively. You're suggesting Earth could win? Minister Volkov sounded skeptical but intrigued. No, Martinez said bluntly. not a conventional war. They have too many ships, too many resources. But war isn't just mathematics. It's about will, about adaptability, about accepting costs. Humanity has spent its entire history fighting. We're frighteningly good at it. The Dominion has spent 800 years not fighting. That's an advantage, maybe our only one. Secretary Webb leaned back. Walk us through it. Admiral, worst case scenario. We refuse. They send their fleet. What does that look like? Martinez changed the display to show Earth's solar system. Based on standard Dominion protocols, they'd likely send an enforcement fleet, 300 to 500 ships. Their goal will be intimidation first, destruction second. They want our resources and personnel. After all, dead humans serve no purpose. She zoomed in on Earth's defensive positions. We spent 25 years building orbital defense networks, automated weapon systems, and our own fleet. We have approximately 450 combat-capable vessels, plus thousands of smaller craft that could be weaponized. Our technology is inferior individually, but we've designed everything specifically for home system defense. The numbers sound almost even, Prime Minister noted. Misleading, Martinez continued. Their ships are more powerful individually, but we have advantages they won't expect. First, we're defending. We know every orbit, every asteroid, every tactical position in the system. Second, we're unified. Every nation has agreed to combine command. They're probably used to fighting divided opposition. She pulled up historical combat footage. Third, and most critical, we don't fight fair. Watch this. The display showed battles from throughout human history. Guerrilla wars, nuclear standoffs, last stands that have become legend. Humanity doesn't believe in honorable combat. Martinez said flatly, we use ambushes, suicide tactics, weapons of mass destruction when necessary. We target supply lines, command structures, and morale, and we're willing to accept casualties that most civilized species would consider unthinkable. You're describing terrorism. Ambassador Chinwei said quietly, I'm describing winning tactics. Martinez replied, look at human history. We've always been willing to pay terrible prices for victory. The kamikaze pilots, the nuclear standoffs where mutual destruction was preferable to surrender, the insurgencies that bled empires dry. I suspect most Dominion species aren't capable of that kind of thinking anymore. Maya watched the faces on the screen. Horror, contemplation, a few expressions of grim determination. There's another factor, Maya added. The Dominion isn't universally beloved. Our intelligence suggests significant resentment among tributary species. If we refuse and actually fight back, even if we lose, it might inspire others to question the system. The Dominion's entire power structure is built on everyone accepting that resistance is futile, Martinez said. If we prove that wrong, even in defeat, we could start something bigger than just Earth's freedom. Secretary General Okonkwo raised her hand. Let me ensure I understand. You're recommending humanity refuse the Dominion's terms, knowing it will likely trigger military action. Action we probably cannot win conventionally, but hoping we can make resistance costly enough that either they back down or we inspire broader rebellion. Yes, Maya said simply. That's madness, Ambassador Chinwei said. That's human, Martinez replied. The debate continued for 8 more hours. Arguments about duty, survival, legacy, and what humanity's first action on the galactic stage should represent. Pragmatism versus defiance. Safety versus freedom. Finally, Secretary General Okonkwo called for a vote. The question was simple: accept or refuse the Dominion's terms. The votes came slowly. Some nations chose acceptance, citing the risks of confrontation. But gradually, inevitably, the count shifted. The United States voted to refuse. The European coalition voted to refuse. The African Union voted to refuse. The Asian Federation voted to refuse. When the final tally was complete, the result was decisive. By a margin of nearly 2-1, Earth's governments chose refusal. The chamber fell silent. They had just set humanity on a collision course with the most powerful organization in the galaxy. Ambassador Rivera, Okonkwo said, her expression grave, you will deliver Earth's response. Admiral Martinez, begin immediate preparations for system-wide defense. All member nations are to contribute forces to unified command. She paused, letting the weight of the moment settle. We may have just declared war on the galaxy. Let's make sure we're ready. Maya sat alone in her quarters aboard the Pathfinder, staring at the message she composed for Earth. Her fingers had trembled as she typed out the recommendation that had surprised even herself. Earth should refuse the Dominion's terms. Not because we can win, but because submission now means submission forever. The Dominion has forgotten what it means to face genuine opposition. If we submit now, we'll never have another chance at independence. If we refuse, we might lose, but we'll lose standing. And there's a possibility, however small, that we can show the galaxy humanity is different. She had sent it with full encryption 20 hours ago. Now, 12 hours before they had to return to the Nexus with Earth's answer, she finally had her response. The message was short. Deliver our answer, Ambassador. Make sure they understand. Okonkwo. Maya stood, straightening her formal diplomatic attire. Jackson was waiting outside her quarters. It's time, she said. Did they? Yes. Jackson nodded slowly. Then let's go make history. The shuttle carried them back to the Nexus. As they approached the massive structure, Maya felt a strange calm settle over her. The decision was made. Now came the execution, or the execution, depending on how the Dominion responded. The assembly chamber was even more crowded than before. Word had spread about Earth summons, and apparently many species wanted to witness how the newcomers would respond to the Dominion's generous offer. Supreme Mediator Vexthal waited at his central podium, his expression confident, almost amused. Obviously, he expected humanity to have recognized reality and prepare to join the Dominion on its terms. Ambassador Rivera, his translated voice boomed across the chamber. Welcome back. I trust Earth has had sufficient time to consider the Dominion's terms. What answer do you bring? Maya reached into her formal sash and withdrew a data crystal. It was theatrical, old technology, but she wanted no ambiguity about what came next. She held it up for the entire chamber to see. Supreme Mediator, honored members of the Assembly, I bring Earth's official response to your tribute demands. She inserted the crystal into the central reader. Every screen in the chamber illuminated simultaneously, displaying the same message in thousands of languages. The file was tiny, barely any data at all, because Earth's answer was only one word. "No." The chamber erupted in noise. Delegates gesturing wildly, trying to understand. Some laughed, thinking it was a translation error. Others stared in confusion, uncertain if they were reading correctly. Vexthal's expression shifted from amusement to bewilderment to anger. Explain this, Ambassador. Where is your acceptance documentation? Where are the logistical arrangements for tribute delivery? What is the meaning of this? Maya stood straight, her voice clear and unwavering. That is our complete response to your demands. Supreme Mediator. No tribute. No submission. No negotiation. Earth thanks the Stellar Dominion for the introduction to galactic society, but we will not accept subjugation disguised as partnership. The words still glowed on every screen in the chamber. Simple, direct, unmistakable. 5 years after Battle of Seoul, as it come to be known, Maya Rivera stood in her garden overlooking Lake Geneva. She had retired from active diplomacy, but her role in reshaping the galaxy had earned her a permanent place in history. A shuttle descended to her private landing pad. She wasn't expecting visitors. The figure that emerged made her catch her breath. Supreme Mediator Vexthal, former Supreme Mediator. She corrected herself. Looked smaller somehow. Less imposing than he had in the assembly chamber. Ambassador Rivera, he said formally, I hope I am not intruding. Not at all, Maya replied, genuinely surprised but welcoming. Please join me. They sat on her terrace, watching the sunset paint the lake in gold and crimson. For a long moment, neither spoke. I came to apologize, Vexthal finally said. Maya looked at him, startled, for threatening your world, for being so blind to the injustice of the system I served, for valuing order over freedom. You tried to show me, and I wouldn't listen. It took the collapse of everything I dedicated my life to for me to understand. Maya considered her response carefully. You were a product of your time, mediator. The Dominion system worked for centuries. It brought peace and stability to many. It's not that it was entirely wrong. It's that it had outlived its usefulness. But it took your species, Vexthal said, his tri-pupiled eyes meeting hers, with your violent history and stubborn defiance, to force that change. Do you know what troubles me most? It wasn't that humans said no. Many species probably wanted to refuse over the centuries. It was that you meant it. You were willing to die for it. And the civilized galaxy, had grown so comfortable that we couldn't understand that kind of conviction anymore. Maybe that's the real lesson, Maya said softly. Civilization shouldn't make you forget what principles are worth defending. The galaxy needed someone to remind it that freedom matters. That happened to be us. Vexthal stood to leave, then paused. That word you transmitted. That single word that shattered an empire. Do you know how many worlds now display it as a symbol of freedom? How many species have adopted it as a reminder that they have the right to refuse? Maya smiled. It's not about humans, mediator. It's about the idea that everyone, every species, every individual, has the right to stand up for what they believe in, to fight when necessary for their freedom. We just happen to be the first to say it out loud in a very long time. After he left, Maya sat in her garden as stars began to emerge in the darkening sky. One word had changed everything, not because it was eloquent or profound, but because it represented a truth the galaxy had forgotten. That submission is always a choice. That resistance is always possible. That freedom is worth fighting for. Her communicator chimed. Admiral Martinez, also retired now, appeared on the screen. Maya, are you watching news? No. Why? The Confederation just opened a new joint military academy. They're calling it the Sol Institute. They want humanity to teach the galaxy how to defend itself. Maya laughed. From threats of destruction to requests for military training. That's quite a transformation. They learned a lesson, Martinez said. A civilization that can't defend itself will eventually fall, either to external threats or internal corruption. And humans, for better or worse, are very good at teaching people how to fight. Let's hope we also teach them when not to fight, Maya said. That's the harder lesson. She ended the call and looked up at the stars, those same stars humanity had reached with hope and wonder, only to find an empire demanding submission. And by refusing that submission with a single word, they had helped birth something better. The galaxy was far from perfect. There were still conflicts, still species struggling with the transition from the old order to the new, but it was better, freer. Every species now had the chance to determine their own destiny, all because humanity had looked at the most powerful organization in the galaxy and given them one word. And they had meant it. Across the galaxy, on 10,000 worlds, the story of Earth defiance became legend. Children grew up hearing about the species that refused. Artists created works celebrating humanity's stand. Historians analyzed how one word had shattered centuries of established order. But for Maya, for Martinez, for all the humans who had lived through those days when war seemed inevitable, it wasn't legend. It was a choice they had made, a choice that could have doomed their world, but instead had freed a galaxy. In the end, it wasn't about humanity being special or superior. It was about the power of conviction, about standing for something even when it would be easier to bow, about remembering that freedom is never given, only taken and always defended. The humans hadn't just joined the galactic community. They had transformed it. They had reminded civilizations that had grown comfortable what their ancestors once knew, that liberty is precious, that independence is worth fighting for, that sometimes the right answer to tyranny, no matter how powerful, no matter how ancient, is simply, completely, and defiantly no. For more such thrilling science fiction stories, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to Starborn Tales.